Okay, let's get this out of the way right off the bat. I really like Bloodborne. I think its aesthetics and score are legendary, its gameplay is energetic and visceral, and it contains some of the single greatest set-piece moments in video game history. The purpose of this video is not to hate on Bloodborne, but to dispel a way of thinking that is potentially harmful to a player's experience and how accepting the community that surrounds it can be. So keep that in mind before filling the comment section with any misplaced anger. YouTube personality and opinionated conversationalist HBomberGuy is known for his witty humor and unflinching honesty. His style of commentary fits perfectly for his political videos, in which he criticizes the opinions of certain figures of the radical right, exposing their backwards logic and the lack of verifiable evidence behind their arguments. He's snobby to the point of being comical, and I can't help but love it. This does not mean that I agree with all of the statements he makes. In fact, the opposite's usually the case. His style translates much less effectively when criticizing topics that don't have objective, concrete problems for him to point out. At the same time, though, I can't help but be entertained by his Luther-esque persona. One of his videos in particular got me thinking. It made me realize that discussing games, in particular, with such an adamant and dogmatic outlook, can actually be harmful to the growth of a games community. In his video analysis of Bloodborne, Harry presents this idea.
I have a hypothesis about this game. Bloodborne teaches you how to enjoy Souls games. And there is a right way to play the Souls games. You can hide behind the shield a lot, die over and over trying to memorize every encounter, or use magic from a distance to avoid having to engage with the game, or wear the heaviest armor and hope that'll save you. But the reality is, it's just more fun playing it as someone who dodges, who weaves, who parries, and who uses situational awareness to assess a situation and maybe get out of it the first time without so much trial or error.
Now, I actually agree with a lot of the other points he makes in this video, and if I went through and picked apart everything that irks me about it, we'd be here all day. But this one idea, I just can't get behind it. The whole concept of there being a right and a wrong way to play a game is just baffling to me. I could understand if he was arguing for the most optimal way to play, or even if he argued that this style of play is the most welcoming to newcomers. A point that I might actually agree with. But he insists that the style of play he finds to be the most enjoyable is objectively the best, and everyone who disagrees is just stupid. Let's dissect his stance for a moment. Harry believes that the best way to play the games in the Souls series, whether it be Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, or any of the Dark Souls games, is to play shieldless, taking advantage of dodging or parrying to defend yourself, as opposed to blocking with a shield. He believes that the reason many players don't enjoy the other Souls games until they play Bloodborne is that the other games encourage an unfun way to play, whereas Bloodborne conditions the player to experience the combat in a way that is actually enjoyable. He argues that it does this by removing shields from the game entirely, and forcing players to approach enemies the fun way. An example he cites to demonstrate his thesis is the encounter with the Asylum Demon boss in the first Dark Souls.
You start, fight easy enemies with a broken sword, no problem, and then BAM! Asylum Demon. He's huge and he probably kills you the first time. To survive, you have to run past him and through a door to the side. And then, no joke, the first thing the game gives you is a shield. What lesson does this instill to a player? It says, hide behind this to survive.
What is interesting to me about this example is that I always thought that this encounter was actually conditioning the player to understand a much deeper gameplay philosophy than just, shields are good, hide behind them to survive. In the first encounter with the Asylum Demon, attacking him head-on is nearly impossible. Then, once you obtain the shield, you're left in a linear corridor with an archer at the end. The shield is effective here because arrows are difficult to weave around in such a tight hallway, and blocking them is the easiest way to avoid taking damage. The next few enemies are incredibly easy to defeat by simply blocking their attacks and then counterattacking. This is what made Harry believe that the game is suggesting that shields are always the right answer. When you finally return to the demon, Dark Souls punches a hole, or I suppose crashes a great axe through that argument. If you try and hide behind your shield and wait to block the Asylum Demon's attack, it'll break your guard and beat you to a pulp. This forces you to rely on a different strategy to defeat it. You need to use the environment to your advantage, and then nimbly dodge around its attacks to either blast it with magic or slash at its behind. What Dark Souls is actually trying to instill in the player here is that there are a multitude of strategies that the game systems allow. You should experiment and try out different playstyles, because relying on a single strategy isn't always the best idea. This is part of what makes the Souls games so much fun to play. They provide a toolbox of different equipment for you to craft a strategy from, and no matter what you find suits you best, it's up to your skill and knowledge to overcome the challenges you're faced with. Harry actually inadvertently states this in his own video when he compares Dark Souls to Dungeons & Dragons. In his own video, he uses D&D as a point of comparison simply in terms of aesthetics and the feeling of adventure that these RPGs share. The connection is actually much more apt when you consider the freedom in character progression and personalization, role-playing, that these games share. Harry argues that this is completely false and that only by playing games in the way that he finds to be the most fun can you actually enjoy them. He goes on to argue against the large amount of weapons present in other Souls games as being a detriment rather than a benefit, and it is pretty dumb to have two identical swords except one deals more damage. This again comes down to him not understanding the idea of variety and self-expression in gameplay that the Souls series is so good at. Having a huge array of different tools for the player to experiment with, they can find just the right equipment for how they want to approach any given situation. In Bloodborne, however, the limited number of weapons means that you'll dispatch many enemies in almost the exact same way. You either dodge around the enemy and attack it with your weapon, use your gun to parry the enemy's attack, or charge up a heavy strike to knock the enemy off balance before going for the kill. This is great for making a player feel comfortable with a certain type of gameplay, as Harry says, but it doesn't make for the self-expressive and strategic gameplay the Souls series can offer. Harry's right when he says that Bloodborne is like a gateway drug to the rest of the Souls series, but not because it teaches you the right or the most fun way to play. It's because it shows you the ropes of Souls gameplay in a polished, streamlined experience that prepares you for the more complex and obtuse games in the series. It builds a foundation that you can then build from to create unique play experiences. This is part of what makes card games like Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering so successful. They offer an environment that encourages for malleable play experiences. Do you want a highly competitive league to test your skills? Hop on the ranked ladder and smash some face. Or maybe you're just in the mood to sit down with some friends and play a fun, casual game. Then Commander's the format for you. This idea of malleable play is completely lost on games like Bloodborne with its linear approach to combat, and Street Fighter V with its lack of casual content. Despite how polished and finely tuned these games are, they don't have the same kind of replayability as something with more variety. Options promote experimentation, which provides depth and ultimately a more rewarding experience that makes you want to return and try something new. There's a reason why I've beaten Dark Souls 2, a game that I have a whole laundry list of problems with, around half a dozen times, and I was only barely able to get through one playthrough of Bloodborne, despite it being so much fun. The point I'm trying to make is that the idea that HBomberGuy presents in his video of a right way to play is just so limiting. Games have the ability to craft such engaging and personal experiences. Why look down on someone for having an experience that they find fun, even if it isn't one that you enjoy personally? Besides, isn't the whole point of a role-playing game to play different roles? Harry, my dude, you can be an elitist about it all you want, and I love you for it, man, I really do, but at the end of the day, the truth is this. The only thing that's really objective about fun is its subjectivity. Thanks for watching.